Hello there. Welcome back. Hope you're doing great. Welcome to the Bernie Show, presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Thank you, DraftKings. First of all, before I get into some Cardinals talk, a little Cardinals news, if you haven't heard. The Cardinals have placed Nolan Gorman on the injured list with a strained hamstring, and they have recalled infielder Thomas Sajasi from AAA Memphis to take the vacant roster spot. Of course, Sajasi, I think they've got pretty good expectations for him long term. He came over to the Cardinals in the trade that sent Jordan Montgomery to the Texas Rangers at the deadline in 2023. So the Cardinals open a 6-game road trip with a weekend series in Boston. Then it's on to Pittsburgh for 3 games. I think they're going to get Paul Skeens on Tuesday. And in this video, I want to talk about the 5 things I like the most about the Cardinals 4-2 start. Listen, I know people watch these videos at all different times. So I just want to, keep this in mind. I'm recording this before they played the first game in Boston. So the information, if you right now are happening to read, to watch this video like on a Saturday, some of it might be, well, wait a minute, that's not true. They're 4-3 or they're 5-2. So yeah, I'm recording this after the first 6 games, and that's what it includes, nothing else except for that. And so let's get into this. What are the 5 things I like the most about the Cardinals 4-2 start? I thought the pitching was okay during the first week. It'll have to get better going forward in his first 2 starts. Sonny Gray had a 5.753 ERA. He allowed a 463 slugging percentage, bad, and an average of 2.5 home runs per 9 innings. That's got to get cleaned up, if sooner the better. And in the 2 losses to the Angels, the Cards bullpen, which has been great in every other game, but in those 2 overtime, listen, man, I'm still talking hockey. Those 2 overtime losses to the Angels. Actually, overtime would be better than just saying extra innings. It's a little easier to say. Overtime. OT. Anyway, in the 2 extra innings losses to the Angels, the Cardinals bullpen was really terrible, getting hammered for 5 earned runs and a 1,200 OPS in 3 innings. They had a 15 ERA. So that's all you need to know. But again, that was 2 bad games. Otherwise, they've been pretty good. But still, those 2 bullpen implosions in the extra inning games, difference between perhaps the 6-0 homestand and the 4-2 homestand that they ended up with. But there is a lot. I mean, a lot I liked about the St. Louis offense. So the St. Louis offense will be the 5 things. And noting that, Wilson Contreras got off to a slow start, and, Mason Winn got off to a slow start, but those guys are going to hit. Their track records tell us that. So here's what I like about the St. Louis offense. Let's start with number 1. And the other items are going to be quicker, but I wanted to kind of go into Lars Nootbaar in his performance. I wanted to go a little deeper into that. He had a spectacular opening week as the newly installed leadoff hitter. In fact, if you look at the stats on Friday morning, as I did, he leads all number 1 hitters in the majors on base percentage and OPS. How terrific were Newt's first 6 games? And again, you don't have to say it's early. I know we only have 6 games to play with. Okay, that's all I can base it on. 162, I got it. Gotcha. We're all on the same page. Got to prove it over the long haul. Anyway, how great were Nootbaar's first 6 games? Well, through Thursday, he had a higher batting average and a higher on-base percentage than the Dodgers leadoff man, Shohei Ohtani. And he matched Ohtani, literally a match, 667, I believe, in slugging percentage. Even if it's for a week, if you're basically putting up Ohtani numbers, you had a hell of a week. That's my point. Hopefully there'll be a lot of other weeks like that. Nootbaar in the first 6 games as the leadoff man batted 400. He got on base 53% of the time, which is crazy. He slugged 667. He launched 2 homers, drew 5 walks, drove home 5, scored 7. He did it all. Also made a couple of really great catches, and he's also emerging as the new team leader, at least of among the younger Cardinals. So let's go back to the fact that he seems to be exactly what they needed at the leadoff spot, and I've been advocating for that for a while. Or even Brendan Donovan, but I think Newt is the guy that sort of checks all the boxes. And if you you're not sure about that, let me just throw this at you if I could. Here's what you need to know about Nootbaar's credentials as a leadoff hitter. Among major league leadoff hitters that have at least 335 plate appearances at the top spot since the start of 2023, Nootbaar ranks in the top 10 of all those guys in batting average, on base percentage, slugging, OPS, and based on the WRC plus metric, which is like a fancier version of OPS plus, right? His performance as a leadoff man over that time since the start of 2023, 35% above league average offensively. His leadoff on base percentage, again, 23, 25. His leadoff on base percentage is 378. That's the fifth best in the majors among leadoff hitters over this time frame. Nootbaar is really, really, really good. And I never understood the people that, kind of dismissed him as being an average hitter, overrated. I got an email one time, and it's only one email, but someone said, Bernie, you got to stop talking about this guy. He's at best a fourth outfielder. Listen, I totally get the frustration over him. I can understand why people would sort of make those kind of harsh judgments because they're kind of tired of him getting hurt all the time. But he's a really good player when he's able to play. And so I'm going to judge him on his performance. Like, in other words, why should I disparage him about 2025 when he's playing ball? If he starts to have these little breakdowns again, then we can say, okay, I don't know how long it's going to take, but it doesn't seem like he can stay healthy. That's a test that he's going to have to pass. But as far as ability, no. As far as being able to be an excellent leadoff man, no. The only test he has to pass, the only thing he's got to prove is that he can stay in a lineup for about 140, 145 games. Don't confuse the actual talent and performance with injury issues. That's all I ask. They are separate issues. And yeah, I know the more you play, the more your talent can benefit the team. Sure, they are related. But just because you're frustrated with the guy being injured as frequently as Newt has been, don't talk about him being like a mediocre hitter or something, okay? One has nothing to do with the other. The only thing that's gone wrong in his career so far, Lars Nootbaar, is staying in the lineup. And when he's in the lineup and when he's utilized properly, and we'll get back to that here in a minute, he's been just what you want to see from a hitter, a leadoff hitter, specifically a leadoff hitter. He works counts. He makes the pitchers labor. He draws a lot of walks. He has a high on-base percentage, good power. He sees so many pitches he's given his teammates, the guys that bat second and third and fourth. They're watching. They're seeing, okay, they're getting a good look at the pitcher because Newt's taking all these pitches in the leadoff spot. So the pitcher's showing him all these different kind of pitches. The guys in the dugout get to have an in-game scouting report on what's working and what's not working from that day's starting pitcher on the other side. That's another one of those benefits that do not really show up in any kind of quantifiable way. But a leadoff man who works counts and makes pitchers throw a lot of pitches, it's a real benefit to the guys that are about to come up to the plate because now they know what to expect. He's got a high on-base percentage, good power, and there's just a lot there. He not only set up teammates for RBI opportunities, but he's capable of doing a lot of damage. He's also a tone setter. No Cardinal hitter has more energy or presence than Lars Nootbaar, and he's emerging as a leader, in my opinion. I think it's pretty obvious for a team that finally enjoys playing baseball and plays hard, plays the game with joy, has a lot of fun, but it's also very competitive and very intense about being competitive. And you want his bat at the top. You also want his personality at the top because his personality energizes his teammates. Lars Nootbaar is not like a kid player, a real young player. He's 28 years old. I think he'll be 29 later in the season. So he's in that younger veteran mode, not quite as old as Arenado or Paul Goldschmidt before that. You know what I'm saying? Not as old as Contreras. But my point is, so it's like the ideal guy to take the lead with all of these players that are, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. He's kind of the leader of the pack, and that's a really valuable thing because they needed to cultivate new leadership, and I think he's well suited for the role. For this particular team's age mix and this particular team's personality, which is not the Arenado Goldschmidt personality, I think Lars Nootbaar is the ideal guy to kind of set the example and set the tone for this particular team. And I mentioned the term, I'll go back to it now, utilized properly with Nootbaar. If he's utilized properly, well, that is a factor. Last season, Nootbaar was hurt, sure, but he did have 405 plate appearances. You want more, you want 500 at least, so it wasn't enough. But 405 plate appearances, and none of them, not one of them came with him batting leadoff. Manager Ollie Marmol stubbornly stayed with Mason Winn in the leadoff spot last season, despite the fact that Winn, among leadoff hitters that had at least 400 plate appearances last year, there's 30 of them. He was 29th out of 30 in on-base percentage. And against right-handed pitchers when he was batting leadoff last year, he had a 276 on-base percentage against right-handed pitchers. I had a number that I came up with. I'll repeat it. There's only one in the history of St. Louis Cardinals baseball. There's only one leadoff hitter with at least 400 plate appearances in a season that had a lower on-base percentage than Mason Winn. That was Julian Javier back in, now I forget the year, but it was in the early 60s. So, yeah, the Cardinals have been around a long time. This goes back to 1901. That was the second lowest leadoff OPB in the history of the franchise in a season, but Ollie Marmol kept him in there despite the really bad numbers, because the biggest thing at on base, the biggest thing a leadoff hitter's got to do is get on base. He's got to get on base on a high level. It makes me wonder just a little bit how much better this St. Louis offense could have been, might have been in 2024 with Nootbaar being deployed at least a good part of the time when he was available as the number one hitter on Ollie Marmol's lineup card. It makes me wonder. Stolen bases. I know some of you got to be thinking about stolen bases. Okay, I get it. Vince Coleman, I get it. But whether we like it or not, the game has changed, even though they've opened it up to steal more bases. I get that. I'm going to give you some information on that. But is that what you want? Do you want that more than high on-base percentage? I personally don't. And you can have it both ways, where you have a high on-base percentage and a lot of steals. But those guys, despite I think what the perception is, those guys, there's not a lot of them that do that, right? I love the 1980s. I love the Whitey Herzog run teams, right? But we're in a kind of different phase now. And if you might want to mention Victor Scott or Mason Winn, let Mason Winn find himself back down at the bottom of the lineup, where he had great numbers last year before he got moved to the leadoff spot. But as I'm going to point out, I got something to kind of address this about where a Victor Scott hits and why it doesn't really matter whether he's hitting there or he's hitting leadoff. The focus on the leadoff spot has changed because managers realize the importance, the value of having a high on-base percentage at the top to set up run scoring opportunities for your best batters, in theory, that come after that, second, third, fourth, fifth. Some guys can do both. Some guys can, as I mentioned, get on base at a high percentage and steal a bunch of bases, but it's not as many as you think. It's probably not as many as you assumed, because it wasn't as many as I assumed. Over the last two seasons, only 5 leadoff hitters had a combination. Only 5 over 2 seasons had a combination of 25 or more stolen bases and an on-base percentage of 340 or higher. It was Ronald Acuna Jr. and Christian Yelich in 2023. Last season, it was Ohtani. It was Jarren Duran from Boston and Ha-Seong Kim in San Diego. So it's only 5 guys have done that the last 2 years. It's just a different time in baseball, even with the rules that have changed to promote more base steals. Again, I think most managers would rather have really high on base percentage in the one hole. Now, listen, I'm a big Victor Scott fan, and I just love the way he's going about it. Once Victor Scott II establishes himself as a hitter who can reliably get on base at a high level, at some point, it definitely would make sense to give him an opportunity to bat leadoff. I'm never saying, well, don't do that ever. I'm not saying that at all. But then again, here's my point. If you got Scott batting 8th or 9th, especially 9th, but 8th works. If you got him batting 8th or 9th and he gets on base at a high rate, he can steal bases where he is. You can steal bases down there. If he's batting 8th and if he's already stealing bases batting 8th, and he's been given RBI opportunities to Mason Winn, who just wasn't hitting the first week. And so the Cardinals weren't able to take advantage of it. But my point is, like, when Victor Scott's down there at 8 or 9 and he gets on base and he can steal a base, well, what do you know? The lineup turns over. You get back to your number 1, 2, 3 hitters. So, and then they'll have a chance. And the theory about him batting first is like, okay, he gets on, he steals second, but then the guys, your bigger bats or your best bats come up and they have a chance to drive him in. My point is, and a lot of times, if he gets on base down near the bottom of the lineup, he's going to get on base, he's going to steal, and those same guys that are at the top of the lineup will have a chance to drive him in the first 3 or 4 spots in the lineup. So what's the difference exactly? Seriously, what is the difference? It's more of a thing we have embedded in our brains, about, you got to have you got to have a fast leadoff hitter steal bases. Tony La Russa and some other managers, sort of came up with this concept of the double leadoff, where they would put a guy in the 9 hole who could get on base and run and set up some things like hit and runs, things like that. And it actually makes a lot of sense if you got the right guys. So what is the difference? The same goal can be attained whether you have Scott at the top of the lineup or near the number 8 spot or the number 9 spot. Get on base, steal, score. Basically, you have a leadoff man batting first, and then you also have a second leadoff man per se, batting 8th or 9th, setting up stuff for the top of the lineup if they can get on base. So again, it's the old double leadoff concept that some enlightened managers have used through the years off and on. So I'm not sure why we're so hung up on wanting steals from the top spot, when if you have fast guys, they can steal at any time, no matter where you put them. I'd rather have Nootbaar, if he can stay healthy, giving you that high walk rate, that high pitch count, good power, and a really high on base percentage. I mean, that's like, to me, that checks all the boxes. And he likes to bat leadoff. I could see Nootbaar at some point batting second. When Marmol had him in the 2 spot last season, his numbers were really, really good, but he didn't use him there much. And I think Ollie kind of blew it, frankly. And I think Ollie's put together a much better lineup the way he's constructed it so far in 2025. But here's the thing: you don't mess with this now. You don't mess with Nootbaar and start moving him around the lineup. Let him be. He's flying where he is right now, and he's teaching the other birds how to fly. More than anything, he's got to stay there, and he can't go hobbling off to the injury list. We all agree on that. But do not underestimate how good his performance has been as a leadoff hitter when the Cardinals have given him the chance to do that. It's really been outstanding, and I just gave you the numbers that backed it up. He's in the top 10 in all these categories, going back to 2023, among all major league leadoff hitters. In a minute, I'm going to tell you about some other aspects of the St. Louis offense that I really liked the first 6 games, first opening week. But I want to tell you a little bit about my friends at DraftKings. Question: are you ready to win real money? Real money. Don't worry about teams or losing. At DraftKings, you need to focus on individual players and their stats to rack up big cash prizes with DraftKings Pick 6. It can be any sport you love and you think you know the most about. You just choose your best lineup. You use your knowledge, do that. Put together a great lineup, select that lineup you want, and then get ready to have fun and win. When it comes to massive payouts, DraftKings dominates competition. It's a slam dunk, right? Pick 6 is available in most states, including Missouri, California, Texas, Georgia, and more. You can track your picks for a shot to win huge cash prizes. It's as simple as that, just getting online and doing it. I recently signed up at DraftKings, and it's easy. You downloaded the DraftKings app, opened an account, choose the sport, look around, learn how you play it. It's easy to understand. You select your players, you get going, and you go for the cash, and you go for the win. You can turn your knowledge of baseball, the NHL, NBA, college hoops, any sport you want to name pretty much. You can turn that knowledge into cash money, and it can happen as soon as today. New players, by the way, get $50 in Pick 6 credits instantly with just a $5 entry. So download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now. Use the code STL Sports. That's the code STL Sports for new customers to play $5 You get $50 in pick six credits. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with pick six from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick six not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. One per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable pick six credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at picksix.draftkings.com/promos.
All right, let's continue on my 5-item list of things I liked about the St. Louis offense during the first 6 games. Number 2, all the young dudes. The first week of ball, the 5 youngest Cardinals put up really good numbers collectively. Now, what makes that even more impressive is that Mason Winn, as we mentioned, started slowly. So of the 5 youngest hitters they have in the lineup, he did the worst in the opening week. It's going to happen. You can pick a random week anytime in the season, and there might be two of these guys, 3 of these guys that aren't hitting all that hot at that particular time. That's what happens in Major League Baseball over the many weeks of 162 game season. So even though Winn started slowly, the other 4 youngest hitters on the team, Victor Scott, Ivan Herrera, Jordan Walker, and Nolan Gorman, more than made up for Winn's early struggles. And Winn came around Wednesday with a good game in the team's 12-5 win over the Angels, which was a really great comeback win. A team didn't give in any kind of adversity or getting shocked by blowing a lead when Sonny Gray gave up that grand slam. Really, really impressive job there. And Mason Winn played a role in it late. But so even if we include Mason Winn's stats, which aren't that hot over the first 6 games, obviously, even with his stats, the 5 youngest Cardinals hitters combined to bat .326. They had a .363 on-base percentage and a .581 slug, and their OPS was excellent, .944. All 5 of those guys are under 25 years old. A couple of them will turn 25 this season. But as of now, they're all under 25 years old. And listen, that group drew a good amount of walks. They had 28 hits. They knocked in 16 runs. They scored 19 runs. Their production included 6 doubles, 4 homers. Scott stole some bags. It's just a good way to start, because you want to have those young players. So much depends on them. No, so much about the success of this team offensively in 2025 depends on that group of players 25 years old and younger. They have so much influence about what direction this offense will take. So you can say it's only 6 games. Yeah, I know it's only 6 games, but I still would rather see them come out and start the season strong so they can have some confidence and feel good as they start to move into the schedule. You always want to see this. If you're putting them under the spotlight, oh, this is the young players, we're giving an opportunity. We got to make a decision on them. We got to find out more about them. In that scenario, you want to see them come out and look really, really good and start to feel it. Get some momentum, get some confidence, right? I'll take it. I don't care if it's 6 games. They had to start off strong, and now they've got to prove that that wasn't just one good week. We all know that, right? Yeah, we do. All right, number 3. The team's obvious improvement in the hitting approach under the new hitting coach, Brant Brown. And I'm not going to throw a lot of numbers at you, and here's why, because I got a lot of numbers, and what I'm going to do is write a column. As soon as I'm done with this video, I'm going to start to work on a column about this. And the changes I've noticed, and these are changes aren't opinions, these are changes based on facts. The Cardinals hitting approach, how much better it is, at least going into the year. It's clear that whatever Brant Brown has been trying to teach these guys, they're listening and they're taking it to heart and they're trying to implement it. Because all 6 of these games, man, Cardinals hitters came into the games with a plan. They had a more refined approach. They had a purpose. They had enhanced plate discipline. They're doing much better at controlling the strike zone. The quality at bats with runners in scoring position definitely was notable. That's why the Cardinals hit in the first 6 games 294 with runners in scoring position, one of the best marks in Major League Baseball. So if you read this column I'll have later here on the Hub, I'll give you some of the particulars. But when I was doing the research on this yesterday morning, I was kind of like, wow, look at that. And it was good stuff. Now I know I'm stat boy. I know that I'm a numbers nerd. Some of you might not care about it as much as I do, but I think I'm always looking for evidence about, okay, is this new approach working? What are the early signs? Repeat, early signs. What are the early signs? And I like what I'm seeing so far. All right, let's go to number 4. Cardinal catchers came out with a bang. Did they ever? Now, sure. Ivan Herrera made the most noise with his record-setting 3-homer game on Wednesday. No Cardinal had ever done that before in a game, not ever in franchise history. Ivan Herrera also set a franchise record for the most total bases in a game, 12, by a catcher in Cardinals history. I mean, it's a hell of a day, right? And as STL Today noted, Herrera became the youngest St. Louis catcher to deliver a multi-home run game, and he was the 5th youngest catcher in Major League history to have 3 homers in a game. Have yourself a day, Ivan. Have yourself a day. You hear the thunder in the background? Uh-oh. See, I'm talking about, you probably can't hear it, but thunder is raging. I'm on the top floor of our home in the lair here where I do all my work. And there's just like a big blast of thunder. But I find the timing of that pretty interesting. It was when I was talking about Ivan Herrera hitting 3 home runs, 2 of which landed in Big Mac land. And just like that, I'm talking about it. And it's like thunder, lightning outside my house. You got to love the baseball gods, right? However, the Herrera stuff was exciting. But let's not overlook Pedro Pages, because he's viewed, of course, as a defense-first catcher. But in his 10 at-bats during the first week, he had 4 hits, 400 batting average. And it was a strong start. And it included a homer and 3 RBIs. So he did his part offensively. And he's good defensively. And Herrera is having problems with his throwing. I was joking with Katie Wu on Cardinal Territory. She has me on as her permanent guest twice a week through the season. I'm really enjoying that. So check that out if you haven't done it. I was saying it's almost like, boy, if you could take Herrera's offense and you could take Page's defense and put them together somehow, somehow, do some kind of composite cloning or something, you'd have like Johnny Bench. And I'm overstating it, but you get my point. You're a real good defensive guy, really good offensive guy. You'd have quite the mix there. But the Cardinals, and like in terms of having 2 quality catchers, this group, these 2 guys have a chance to be really, really, really good when we compare them to maybe the number 1, number 2 catchers. In other words, I'm talking about the tandem, not the number 1 catcher. This could be one of the better situations for your top 2 catchers that we've seen in St. Louis for quite a while. And speaking of tandems, through Thursday, obviously doesn't include Friday, Saturday, Sunday game. Through Thursday, the Herrera-Pages tandem led Major League catchers, that group. They led the Major League catcher group in batting average, slugging, OPS, and home runs, and they were second in on-base percentage and OPS. Once again, hell of a start there. Keep it up, fellas. Number five, led by Nootbaar, Victor Scott, Jordan Walker, the Cardinals are getting elite level offense from their outfielders. And once again, you just wanted to see that coming out of the starting gate. It doesn't mean it's going to stay this way all season, but the Cardinals offensively, from their 3 outfield spots as a whole, the entire outfield production offensively was just awful, just flat out awful, just terrible. So the same principle applies to what I said earlier. What I want to see in the early days, in the first few weeks, whatever, the first week, because that's all we have right now, I want to see signs that, okay, are things going to be better this year? And if you look at the first week, you at least had a little more confidence, the fact that it could be better, outfield production could be better in 2025. But again, got to pass the test. And the test is a long test. It lasts 6 months. As a group, let me remind you of where they were last year. As a group, the St. Louis outfielders were just awful. They're hideous. Let me think of some other words, right? They were 24th in the majors in batting average, 25th in OPS, 27th in slugging, and dead last in home runs. I wanted to see the Cardinals outfielders just kind of make that strong entry into the regular season. I wanted to see Nootbaar get it going. He has. I wanted to see Victor Scott show that, hey, this ain't like last year when I was a nervous rookie playing for the first time, maybe got to the major leagues too soon. No, this Victor Scott is like, he's a year older, but he seems to be much more mature than a year older. He looks like a different guy with his approach, his demeanor, his discipline at the plate, his maturity. Really, really, he worked his tail off to become better over the offseason, and, really, really happy with him. And Jordan Walker is off to a good start. He is. And it isn't a fluky thing because he's seen a lot of pitches. He's making pitchers come to him rather than chasing their junk. And Walker looks, that's a really encouraging start what Jordan Walker has had. His first 5 games that he played in really looked good. A totally different hitter at the plate in terms of his approach and his discipline. But anyway, I told you just how bad those numbers were with the Cardinals outfield last year. Well, through Thursday, after 6 games, the St. Louis outfielders collectively, as a group, ranked first in the majors in on-base percentage. They were second in batting average, second in OPS, and third in slugging. And they had 4 home runs. And so the point being, I'm sort of repeating myself too much, but the point being is that when you have a really bad year, the first thing you want to see in the new year is that, okay, maybe it won't be so bad. Maybe it'll be good. You just want something to like grab onto and say, well, boy, this looks a lot better than it did last year. So now let's see how long they can make this last. That's true of the whole team. It's true of all 30 teams, except for maybe the Dodgers. We know how good they're going to be no matter how they started the season. So that's going to do it for this Friday. Today, I'm going to be watching baseball, the Cardinals, the Red Sox. Don't forget, if you're seeing this, or I don't know what time you're seeing this, but that as I'm doing this, I know I'm getting ready because it's a 1:10 p.m. St. Louis start, opening day at Fenway Park. And I'm working on that column about the St. Louis offense and some of the stuff that really jumped out at me that don't have anything to do with batting average, home runs, RBIs, OPS. It's more about habits at the plate. Kind of resetting an approach at the plate. There's some good stuff in there. So I'm going to try to bang that out for you as soon as possible and get it online. Thanks to DraftKings for supporting the Bernie Show. But Bernie, that's me. I want to say I'm grateful to all of you who support my work here at my excellent new home, sportshubstl.com. So have a great day. Have a great weekend if I don't talk to you.